Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We are here. It is sooner than soon going to be Pluto in Aquarius, okay, coming up in about March 2023. Now, we've already been with Aquarius in Saturn and it's getting ready to close out going to Pisces. So, the reason why this stuff matters is um, I got two guests that's going to help us to kind of distribute and reveal to us. So, they're kind of backstage right now, Eileen the Mexican Bruja and Corvette Cam. So, you're going to meet them very, very soon, but there is a global agenda that has been clear. It's been active for a long, long time, and we got two guests to come and really have just an open discussion, something intuitive that's going to work and through flow and so much more. So I just want to kind of give you a little brief update and understanding of what we're doing today, why we're doing it. Okay, and with that said, I will not hold them back any further. Thank y'all for hitting the thumbs up and the like button early. I got my two guests here. Um, and, feel free off the rip, just introduce yourself as we get deeper into Pluto and Aquarius, the revolution of power, especially how it pertains to gender, okay? Masculine energy, feminine energy. What are the principles of masculine energy? What are the principles of feminine energy? Why does that matter? And how do we continue to make that a part of our, our sense of one, quote unquote? One, which is really what this whole gender warfare is all going to. And there are two narratives, okay, that we're going to very clearly um, identify today. We're very clearly identify what are these two narratives, because there's one spiritual narrative happening, there's one happening against the people, okay? So, Eileen, Cam, what's going on? What do you want us to know about you? What's up? What's up? How y'all feeling today? I see smiles early.
Hey.
Feel,
Oh, go ahead, Cam.
I don't think you heard me. She said, "Go ahead." She said, "Go
Oh,
ahead, homie."
oh, oh no. Well, you see, that's how I was doing it, right?
Say it again.
What did you say?
No, just in case you want to introduce yourself, just anything you wanted us to know about you. Same thing going back and forth with Eileen as well. I mean, because again, like we can really hop right into it. I mean, full circle. When you see
Yeah,
Pluto in Aquarius, when you see Pluto in Aquarius, 'cause I know you're pretty well versed in astrology as well yourself. When you see Pluto in Aquarius, how does that play into gender warfare, and even just by definition, and this is up to either one of you. It's not one has to say. I'm not even picking on anybody in the moment. What is gender warfare when you talk about Pluto and Aquarius? You talking about permanent transformation, against rights for people being held back. All right, about whatever we decide to make, how we decide to identify ourselves. Okay, whether somebody wants to be, you hear, so I'm seeing so many narratives lately about whether a man wants to be pronounced, having a pronoun as her, she, a woman. What are your thoughts around this? Is this something that we need to really be arguing back and forth about? So just go ahead and give people the green light to do what the hell they want. What's going on full circle? And if there's anything you want to share about your background personally, feel free. But what is both for both of you? What's the meat? What's the bulk when it comes into Pluto and Aquarius? What's getting ready to transform forever when it comes to us being unique? Because Aquarius is always fighting for the uniqueness within us, and as well as how we relate as a group, how we relate as a culture. It's always looking to make sure that we can stand up and stand out and be individuals, even while being in the community as one as a whole. So, what is this narrative? How do y'all see this breaking up when it comes to gender warfare or in the war on gender itself?
there's gonna be eyes like in terms of like the people that there's two genders and you are what you were born as, like you're born female, and obviously there's the opposite side where they're like you can be whatever you identify, no matter what society thinks and whatnot, and Magic Believers attention to both sides of like how gender, like the roles of what the roles of each gender and just gender identity and
Eileen?
yeah. I mean, as Cam said, there's always like these two sides to the story, but I also think that it is all part of where we're heading, because spirit is gender neutral. Like there is no like a female angel or a male angel. So we're all heading to this part of the living where we're all going to be just souls, just spirits. So I feel that this is part of the awakening, just people not feeling okay in their bodies because it doesn't accurately represent their own soul. So I also see like a lot of confusion around the world because there are some people who are actually acting out of this insatisfaction of their own physical human body just because their soul is ready to just jump out and do something else and embrace their actual non-gender, non-binary selves. It's like a soul, a spirit part where this comes into what you were saying earlier, that we're all one. So in this all being one, we're not gendered, you know? And this is where I see that the whole community is going up to. But I also see a lot of people that is just tapping into the movement or taking advantage of the movement just because it's trending, because it's different, because they're gonna give them some advantage in social media. And this is a conversation that I saw earlier, that just because like it's an actual strategy. Like if someone's career is just dying out, it's like, okay, come out as gay, okay, come out as non-binary, okay, come out as transgender. And I feel that that's the actual part that is hurting us, because we're not being able to embrace the spiritual part of this whole awakening, you know?
So I did recently see that with Sam Smith. I saw it with Sam Smith, and there was an interview on like London Real or something like that, and they were saying that his singing career was dying out, and so he tried to use um, pronouns on in the discussion of non-binary to kind of rebirth and reignite his career just to get some clout, literally some clout, some attention. So that's what you're speaking about on that in that instance. Is that like in alignment with what you were saying, where people using the gender roles and narratives to actually bring them more attention?
Yeah, because I actually saw this whole Sam Smith thing, and the angering part was this came out because I think a reporter didn't address him like with his pronouns, well, their pronouns, because Sam Smith wants to be addressed like as them, they, and this reporter didn't actually know about it. So he addressed him as a he, I think, and then everyone blew up against him. And he was like, I really don't understand where all this hate is coming from. And he was actually the one who spoke about like, hey, I really think that this whole Sam Smith thing was just to get him attention from the media. And I think that this is one of the things that are hurting the people who are actual in this spiritual awakening of, hey, let's just address like the divine feminine and the divine masculine as these literally divine parts of the spirit, and it doesn't actually have much to do of like I am a male or I am a female, in this gendered body. So yeah, that's very, very unfortunate that it's happening just because of that, just as a part of politics.
Kim, how you feeling on this?
You know, I personally actually know, a few transgender people. And one thing I've noticed is that like amongst, the younger people, like under a lot of like are just getting sucked into a trend. Like I always ask them like what made them start feeling like they identify. And I actually had a couple of them basically tell me that they were like encouraged or peer pressure by other people that are in that community. And it's one of those things where it's just it's a slippery slope, because it's just like you're young, you start taking the opposite sex's hormones, and you decide you want to go, detransition. Like, it's not that easy because you started taking it at a young age. It's kind of hard to reverse those type of reverse the effect of that. So I feel like it's kind of not a feel. I know this going to affect like the future generation a lot in the future, just because, like I said, you have people that are getting into this when they're children or teenagers, and like I said, if they want to go back, they can't. Like I said, so there's a lot of.
When you say go back, you're talking about from a surgical standpoint, or are you talking about from a mental?
No, I mean if you take hormones, like it affects your body and your mind.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can't just like if you put hormones, like if you put the opposite sex's hormones in a 14 or 15-year-old, like it's hard to reverse those effects compared to if you do to an adult. You know what I mean? Because their body hasn't even gone through puberty, so you can't just reverse that. So that's going to be an future. And like I said, just the peer pressure in general. Like, you know, like, for example, I had one girl tell me that she didn't want to transition, but her friend her to transition because she already acts feminine and dresses, you know, like that. In my opinion, that's just not a good reason, because that doesn't even come from you. That's just because you should do it. So you just decide to do something that's life altering, you know. Told me that 2 years ago. 2 years later, you know, fast forward to now, she told me she regrets doing all that stuff, you know.
So
love that.
There's two things I want to highlight. One, I'm curious if you happen to be connected to Wi-Fi and your service at the same time, because your mic is going in and out. So I don't actually know if you are connected to something else at the same time. And two, what I feel like is important about this discussion today to highlight is I'm Pluto and Scorpio generation. I see Irene in the chat had just said this is Pluto and Scorpio, and Cam is actually coming from Pluto and Sagittarius generation. I don't know what year does Sagittarius Pluto start? Is it 96?
It started in 95, did back in the
95.
Scorpio, then went back in 96. So,
Okay.
Sagittarius.
Okay, thank you. So you know, already understand that we're talking Pluto and Aquarius, right? And what matters about a lot of this is what matters so much here is that he is coming from Pluto and Sag, so it's the generation right after Scorpio. So to kind of help y'all understand this as a whole, all right, and I'm gonna get the secrets comment. I didn't get to really read it yet, but to address this as a whole, we got to kind of look at the timeline. So you know, timeline wise, even if we just go back to Pluto and Libra, this is when a lot of marriages really begin to completely shatter, at least the concepts and the traditions. Because remember, the exaltation of Libra is in Saturn, so it's like, you know, remember, Libra is Venus home rule, dignified. So this is where love goes. This is where, you know, we literally love the pleasure of even being married. It used to be a thing. It used to be like you grow up and you get married. You were in your young 20s, you have kids, right? And so this is the Pluto Libra generation where that already began to switch up. This had nothing to do much with gender at the point in time. This is just the beginning, some of the beginnings. We can go back to Pluto Virgo as well, but that's a different story. I don't think we need to go that far forward now for today's conversation. So you look at Pluto and Libra, for example, marriages and the traditions behind marriage about, oh, you gotta get married in all white. Somebody's like, no, I don't want to get married in all white. Like, I want to do it different. Oh, you got to get married in the church. I don't want to get married in the church. Like, I don't really believe in that. And so this began to change in Pluto and Libra as for what did the standard guidelines behind marriage even mean in the first place. So anybody in the chat that maybe has been married, I see Irene here, who is Pluto and Libra. If you can share a little bit about what your generation was about, we'll kind of back to that standpoint. Okay. And then you got Pluto and Scorpio. And so that's my generation, that's Eileen's generation. And we were really starting to discover the deeper psychologies behind why do we even want to get married in the first place? Why do we really restrict and withhold our sexual energy? And there's a lot of Pluto and Scorpio generation. They started really peering through the nonsense, peering through the BS, realizing that sexual energy, masculine and feminine, was completely out of balance. It was completely out of alignment. And we began to actually experiment in a sexual manner that has not been done prior. Literally, Scorpio is the house of sex. Pluto is going to be making sure that sex is a transformative experience. And anybody that knows, if you sit there and you connect with somebody, keyword, connect with somebody, not bang somebody, and there's a big difference. Pluto Scorpio really started to realize some of that big difference. And with that said, you know, when we were younger, quite frankly, like, and I don't even know when, like maybe like college, maybe sophomore year to like college, that age bracket, that little 5-year span or so, there was massive amounts of sex, like at a purely experimentation standpoint, like just trying to step away from what was traditional prior. Okay, what was preemptively traditional? Libra. Okay, what was socially acceptable to do and to treat? Oh, you can't have sex until you get married. So a lot of Pluto and Scorpio was just like, look, sex is at a soul level. It's a connection type thing, and you don't need to be married to somebody. So that's a lot of this. It came into a lot of experimentation and transformation of what used to be. All right, and I definitely want to see that Jordan Peterson comment as well, because he speaks about this a lot, actually. And then now we got Pluto and Sag. And Pluto in Sag is mutable. And so this is Cam's generation. So remember, mutable means change. And it's mutable in the sense where it's coming from Jupiter. So Jupiter is linked to past lives of royalty, past lives of prophets, past lives of even the church. And so, you know, this can be a sensitive topic in a moment, but if you think of the church, you think about those time frames with the Spartans, right? Boys were literally, to come into manhood, they would have sex with a man. Like that was considered coming into manhood. And so you start looking at Jupiter's impact or Sagittarius impact in Pluto. This is a part of it where there's going to be change. And through that change, there's going to be experimentation. There's going to be an experience, because Sagittarius is all about experience. You can't transform with Pluto and Sagittarius without experiencing something in a mutated form. So when I say mutated form, this is the rise of LGBTQ at a higher level. Scorpio was revealing, you know, some of the beginning steps of that, but the real experimentation began in Pluto and Sagittarius generation, where it's like we are now having to have life magic. Life magic for Sag is experience. It doesn't matter what you tell somebody. It doesn't matter what they read in the book. They must experience. And Sag is a sign of fire, a sign of assertion. It's a sign of action. So this is a physical experimentation. It's beyond Scorpio and Pluto, where we're just kind of like teetering, you know, and diving deeper, quote unquote, on what this might look like. Sag is like we're all the way coming back out of what the depths that it look like. So it's like Scorpio can be a little more psychological. It's a water sign, right? So when you think sex, it's more about connection from the psychic standpoint, it's connection from the soul level, which might not even be sex. So this is going to also be some of that rise of tantra. You see the Scorpio, Pluto Scorpio generation was rising in tantra. And notice the topic that we have today, Pluto Aquarius. So we're working our way up the ladder and trying to help you understand what each of these layers are about. But I want to kind of give it a break. If either of the two of you have something you want to say, or you saw a comment, because there's multiple comments, I didn't read anything yet. If you saw a comment that stuck out that you want to expand on, please do.
I actually just wanted to expand on something that you were talking about of like the all these sexual experiences that you were talking specifically about college. And I read recently or saw somewhere about Cosmo Girl, like how they were talking to women and asking them to embrace like a masculine role. And I think that this is part of the whole confusion. Like, and within all of this, like the important part that I want to highlight is that they're actually encouraging like young girls to have a lot of sex, to have a lot of sexual partners. And this is part of like disempowering them in their actual soul, in the core, because every time that you have sex, it is a bond that you're making with that other person. It's an exchange of energy. It's when the part of the orgasm is actually entering a different dimension. So every time that you experiment this and get this union with somebody else that doesn't necessarily share the same energetic charge or frequencies that a person has, is actually disempowering the soul more and more and more. And this is I always forget this word, desensitizing us.
Desensitized, yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually encouraging us to go in a different direction that is not gonna help us. This whole Pluto in Aquarius, actually, where it is going at the end of the day, where we're all realizing we're all one. And it is actually making sex about this carnal, human, physical experience rather than the Tantra. And I also see this, like I see multiple information, like I was looking for information about Tantra, and it's super difficult to find the actual good information because there's a lot of articles that are just talking about it in a non-spiritual way, or they're trying to make it like physical rather than a connection, you know.
Right.
And understanding that Tantra is actually between any two souls, that you don't actually have to be romantically involved. Like you can have a tantric connection with your friend, with your family, and this doesn't have to be sexual. And this is just a whole misunderstanding that is taking us in a confusion. So this is why I feel that it's so important to take the real part for what they are, and understand that all the media, all the confusion that is happening right here is actually a part of the disempowering movement.
Ooh, Cam, what you got for that, baby?
I don't really have much to add to that one.
Okay. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So let's hop back in the. It was getting hot as hell in the sun. I had to get up out of that thing. That thing started cooking me, man. My titties fighting over here. I'm like, man, it started cooking. All
Yeah,
right.
it's
I Jordan Peterson is one of the ones that he was one of the first that I started seeing kind of actually speaking up, and he really was. They were trying really hard to crucify him on this whole entire topic about detransitioning. To be honest, I heard Cam talk about it a little bit earlier. I'm not entirely familiar what it means to detransition. Can you elaborate on that for me, Cam? I mean, I don't really know what that means. I heard you kind of speak about it a little bit about stepping in and then kind of detransitioning out. I actually don't know what that means, so I can't even begin to
Yeah,
explore.
I mean it's pretty much exactly what you just said. Like you begin transitioning to the opposite gender, and then you decide you want to go back. So you pretty much just
Mm.
try to reverse everything you'd already done.
And what does that? Have you been a part of that by chance? Like, what does that reversal look like?
What do you mean? Have I? No, I mean, I mean, I'm not transgender, never have been, but like, um, I mean, like I've known people who have tried to do that. Like they started transitioning, they started realizing that a lot of stuff they were doing wasn't working for them, so they would try to go back, but they really, I mean, they could, but it's just some of the things they've done were a bit irreversible.
So I heard the one piece about boom. Now you have this is shitting at a hormonal level, and it's happening young, right? Like I seen somebody said 11 years old somewhere, and then at 20 they try to go back and change. And I can imagine like oh, it's right here. She said it right here. Um, really hard having to go back at the process at 11. She's now in her 20s. So we know how absorptive, I say absorptive, children are as a whole, right? Like whatever you give them, it's like they're much more. They can absorb a lot of information. They can absorb a lot of change. They can absorb a lot of anything that's given, good, bad, negative. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't actually partake. So I can kind of understand that from seeing it from this perspective now. I want to take a moment to address Irene. Men are starting to say they have no identity, role, and is mixed, where they belong in society. Hello, welcome to a woman's world. And I think she's spoken and she elaborated on that a little bit more about, and maybe Eileen, you might be the best to say this. She started speaking more about how women get bumped off. Women have been objects and it's never been fully addressed. And I know you've spoken some things about this as a Mexican woman here. Is there anything that you want to elaborate on that part of the discussion?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's no secret. I really get triggered by all of these movements, especially here. Like the part that he's saying about the Mexican is because here, and I'm not saying that in other parts of the world it's better or worse. Like, I'm fully aware that there's multiple understandings, but here, the form that I have experienced more is like machismo, and it's a form of patriarchal energy. So this whole narrative of actually like having to marry someone, like here it was taught like that, like you grow up, you study maybe if you want, but the end goal for a woman was to just get married with somebody else. And sometimes like it was literally a transaction, like, hey, it is convenient for us to have ties with this family, so you have to marry this person, and that's it. Like you have no say in it. Unfortunately, this is something that has been changing a lot. There's still some parts of Mexico where this is still happening, but this is the whole part of using women as objects, and it is a lot of what we've seen still in media. I do see it a lot. Like we're constantly compared. I saw a comment that just fired me up. Um, a woman was saying something about like how it doesn't matter for us how many sexual, no, it doesn't matter for other people how many sexual partners they've had, but for women it's like, oh no, if you had more like 2 sexual partners then you're trash. And then a guy down wrote a comment that, well, it is basic, if you buy a pair of shoes, if you wear it 2 times then it has more value than if you worn them 50 times. I was like, okay, now we're shoes. Now we've been objectified as shoes. Is that really how you want to treat a peer? Like, I do see this bridge a lot, and there's a lot of learning that has to happen because this is a breach of this balance of the feminine and masculine energy. So as bad as it has been for us, I do feel that the masculine is as wounded because it's always a balance. there cannot be one is good and the other one's bad. There's always this balance. So if they're both hurting at the same
Mm,
time and at the
mm,
same level. So now we have this whole part of, hey, men can't cry because they have to be this tough guy, this tough partner. And this is something that a narrative that has to be stopped too. So as much as we are being objectified, the male are suffering in some other ways too. So I'm saying this in order for people to understand that this is not like we as women should hate men, you know, because of this has happened. No, we have to be comprehensive. We have to be intuitive. We have to be compassionate about this and understand that they've been through a lot too. So this is not to start a war with anyone, is the whole opposite, that we have to stick together, understand the other part, and just uplift each other in the way, because we're all heading to the same part. And again, as we've said it in the beginning, we're all one. So if the other one is hurting, we're hurting as well. This is why I'm saying that there's no divine feminine is good and the divine masculine is bad. No, if one is bad, the other is equally as damaged. And the
mm,
whole goal is to balance it and make us a whole that we're conviving in divine energy.
mm. I feel like it was important to just take a moment to just see this, because I'm taking a wild guess that Irene is a woman, and then men say, "Oh, women rule the world, have all the power." It's said as if women are the object and found as sexy to the man, as if it takes the power away, so disempowering to the true feminine. And like, when I see that, the key thing is disempowering to the true feminine. And I say that as like two males on the call right now. I'm very in tune with my feminine. And so it's kind of what Eileen was just saying, that it's important to be mindful of men, quote unquote, cannot continue to be put in an entire gap through the gender. This is a part of the warfare in the first place. Like when we look, and when I ask over and over, it's like, all right, God, why do you want me to come on there here and have this talk? Why do you want to have this discussion, this conversation? And a lot of it is to help further educate how any narrative, kind of like Eileen just said, where we're pressing against and saying that men are here, women are here, men are here, or men and women are anything other than one. Anything other than one. So there's this two things that's going on with these narratives where, one of the reasons why I wanted to come on here today, and Aggie, what's up, girl? I see you checking out of California. Happy to see you here. One of the things I wanted to kind of come on here and address today is that when I put the title here, it's the Global Elite Agenda. That's what the cover title says. The Global Elite Agenda. It's the simplicity that through people like Cam, let's say for example, who's in the Pluto and Sagittarius example, who brought the change, aka this is the first sign back into the God signs, aka they no longer have genders, just like Eileen said earlier in the day, where angels are not masculine or feminine. It doesn't matter what angel tarot oracle deck you have that shows the angel looking like a man or shows the angel looking like a woman. It's neither. It's neither. It's just something that our mind needed to, quote unquote, needed to visualize in order to perceive something. But the reality is an angel doesn't have a gender. And so when you get to Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, these are all genderless. The gender stops. Like I said, what's the sign right before Sagittarius? Scorpio. So Scorpio was the final one to go ahead at the top of the collective of interpersonal relationships, dealing with other people. It now saw through the veil. It literally aligned when it worked with its wounds, because Scorpio has a lot of wounds. When it worked with the wounds, Pluto and Scorpio generation, when we work with our wounds, we've aligned with the heart. And Scorpio is linked to the heart chakra. We've aligned to the heart. What's up, Murphy? And as we align with the heart, you start really recognizing, again, this same narrative. So Scorpio has the ability to see that. Yet, until Sagittarius, we don't get to fully experience that. It's still a psychological concept. Okay? It's a psychological concept until we transform it and actually experience it in Sagittarius. So the reason that all is important is, when I say the global elite agenda, they're going to want you to begin to fight between man and woman like it's always been. Like it's always been. Like it's always been. They need you to fight between this. And so it helps to run narratives about, oh, well, you want LGBT? Okay, good. Give them LGBT. You want LGBT? Give them LGBT. You want LGBTQ? Give them that as well. Why? Because it allows us to continue to fight for something that at the end of the line, none of that's going to matter.
It's a distraction.
The distraction. That's the global warfare full narrative when we get down into it. And like Eileen has said earlier at one point in this conversation, the soul, okay, does not identify as masculine or feminine. The spirit, which is different than the soul, does not identify as masculine or feminine. It is literally non-binary. So the key thing with this is, as you start seeing more and more people fight for non-binary, start fighting for genderless, at the end of the day, that's where we're going. Everybody, whether you accept that or not. Okay, so so I say that to say, like, it's important. You see a lot of men aligning with stoicism, for example. Okay, stoicism, and now you're gonna get people like, I'm gonna use him. This is a part of his conversation as well. You got somebody like Andrew Tate. When you now see a man who needs to scream and yell at every other sentence, that's not healthy. That person is automatically not healthy in some way, shape, or form. And we're going to look at it right here. We're going to check it out. We're going to see what are the wounds on between masculine and feminine, right? So I'm pulling this right here. Let's see what we got. All right. So let's check in with the masculine for a second, okay? This is a wounded masculine, all right? And understand that as I show this, okay, as I show this wounded masculine, that this can be a woman as well, because what I've learned very clearly is that most women have a wounded masculine right now, period. And most men have a wounded feminine, period.
Yeah.
And
and we all have both.
And we all have both. We absolutely all have both. We all, but it's like, if you look through the timelines, right? Because there are timelines of when men were operating specifically from wounded masculine. And feminine wasn't even a part of the discussion. And then women operating from wounded feminine. And masculine was not a part of the discussion for them. That's when Pluto and Libra already started to create that weighing out process and balancing out. Pluto and Libra began that. And that's where a massive amount of divorce began to happen, because no one could understand in Pluto and Libra when they were born what we just said. What we just said, it was just too soon. So it's the timeline. We got a timeline in this. Okay, as we get to, right now we're going to Pluto in Aquarius. This is going to put more focus on transforming the masculine. But what did we just leave? What are we leaving? Pluto in Capricorn. Transforming what? The wounded feminine, aka authenticity. All right, if I was to go ahead and show over here, for example, the wounded feminine, this is us leaving Pluto in Capricorn. Transforming over the last, from 2008 right now to 2023 in March. So that's about 14 to 15 years or so. This is what was happening. Playing the victim role, men and women. Playing powerless, men and women. Manipulation, men and women. Being over emotional, men and women. Being codependent, men and women. Everybody sees this right now. Neediness, men and women. And this happens in relationships behind closed doors. And there's a lot of what just transformed. But as we step into Pluto and Aquarius, here's one of the big differences. We're switching energies. The wounded masculine is taking priority, abusing power, dominance, aggression, control, men and women. Avoidance, men and women. Being unsupportive. Because masculine energy in its health can be objective. You can masculine energy in its health can support without holding an old argument over your head from a week ago, waiting to use, oh, well, you did this last week. And it's like, that's another distraction. It's another sense, it's a form of avoidance of what's happening now. If that happened last week, you should address that then. And if not, you address it after the current disagreement. You wait, you have to make your pause, deal with what you're dealing with then, and then when you're on a baseline, Okay, when you're then back on a base, wrong view. When you're back on a baseline, now you can come back to that conversation where you, let's say your woman and your man, whoever your partner is, man, woman, doesn't even matter. Transgender, gay man, doesn't even matter. Does not matter. Whoever your partner is, when you now get back to a baseline standpoint and you can step back into objectivity, your sensitive feelings are not overwhelming and just splurging out like a waterfall. Just I gotta spit it out. I gotta spit it out now. Then you can, if something bothered you 2 weeks ago, bring that back up in a calm state of mind. Bring that
Yeah,
back
but
up.
for example,
Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, but in the example that you're giving, it's a form of manipulation. You know, bringing up something that was, I don't know, relevant a week ago. Like right now, that's not the subject. It's just something that you have the time to understand and now use as a weapon. So it's still in the wounded part. That's why it's being brought up, but it is still a part of the wounded feminine. Is using that as a manipulation tactic. Like, okay, and you did something wrong, so now I have the opportunity to do something wrong too. Like these things just don't work like this.
Mm. No, it's the facts. It's the truth. I see right here, Aggie. There's no good there's no good or bad defined by God. The education needs to be around the energies and not around the physical aspects. That is exactly
Yeah.
what is happening. That is exactly what is happening. Thank you for saying that. In my opinion, if we emphasize education on energies and acceptance of physical aspects of the male and feminine, and that is the critical point of today's entire discussion.
Oh, wait. This deserves a shaker.
This is literally a part of the entire discussion today. Let me see what else going on. I hear all of this, but in my lived experience lifetime, I have experienced exact gender inequality. We all have. And this is the key, and I'm gonna finish the rest. That revolved around me having a vagina. Obviously, I can say that I've had that revolved around having a vagina. Eileen can speak better for this particular moment.
Yeah, I mean, we had this experiment. I used to work in a company. I used to work with a friend. We both had the same role, and every time that we went into a meeting with the CEO, a male CEO, all of his ideas got passed, and all of my ideas were held back.
Mm-hmm.
So we both noticed this, and we made an experiment. So for one whole week, we switched agendas. Like whatever my ideas were, he exposed them, he pitched them, and whatever his ideas were, I pitched them. The exact same thing happened. It kept happening the exact same way. I was the one held back, and he was the one getting all of the praise. Like, so we really had this conversation of like, so this guy is really doesn't care. Like, just because you're a male, he's gonna put these ideas through, and just because I'm a woman, he's gonna shut me up. But then this was enlightening after, because I had a talk, and I realized that it was just because that's he's preserving the power. He couldn't just empower myself, because he realized how powerful I would be if he would just give me the recognition for my work that I was doing. So he was perpetuating this role. So just understand that, and he was a baby boomer. Like I mean, and the only reason that I'm saying this comment is because he was in another part of life. Like his Pluto was probably nowhere close where we are now, and it is up to us, to this generation, to realize these things, like the exact experiment that we did, me and my friend, and then moving forward accordingly. It's just like, okay, so this is not a place for me. That was it. Like, to me, that was the full enlightenment. Like, this is not a place for me. This is part of moving the change. And I did try to do something. I talked to my direct boss about this, but she was like, there's nothing that I really can do about it. So let's move on to somewhere where I can actually do change. So let's move somewhere where this actually can happen, because I'm not gonna deny these things happen all day, and these things happen like in much worse scenarios than just a work part. But again, it is up to us, to this generation, to speak up and to change the narrative. Like for now, for me, it was just as easy as speaking up, seeing that you were nowhere there, and keep speaking up, like keep saying this story, keep telling what happened, and for me just to walk away from that narrative and just go into what we actually want to do, and it's become just one, and equality in gender. So
Cam, go
that
ahead.
is
I
like
see you got
saying,
some.
yeah.
One thing I have noticed is this. especially amongst that generation, yeah, it was definitely true. Men held a lot more power over women. But I will say this, with my generation, it's the exact opposite. Like, it almost feels as if men have like no real place, like amongst our generation. It almost feels as if anything you do as a man is just wrong. Like, you acting as a
Yo,
man in your masculinity. You're doing something wrong, even though you didn't do anything wrong. You're just being a man. I've noticed this shit. The shift started with Pluto and Libra, because Libra is the scales. In the past, men oppressed women. Now it seems like the tables are starting to turn. Like I said, like most men I know, like around my age group, they're completely lost. Like, they have no idea what to do as a man, what their role in society is as a man. A lot of them struggle with women, because it seems like women are kind of taking on like the role, like more masculine energy in the role of men. So it's like the tables are turning. Like, we're being honest. Like, that's just something I've noticed. That's just something I've noticed. I can just throughout my entire life. Like, masculinity is just not really it's not really supported nowadays.
And I feel that it is all part of the change. Like, again, it is not good. And again, this part of suffering from the male, that confusing and not knowing what to do, is part of the woman wounded masculine energy held by women, because this is the aggression, this is the power, the controlling, the being like avoidant, like refusing that they have feelings, just because the world has wronged them so much, well, wronged us so much for so much time. But this is not the way to go either. And at the end of the day, what I feel is that we're just trying to balance out. So right now it's just like, when you first put something in a scale, that it goes crazy, and then little by little it just starts to balancing again. So I just feel that it is just like that. Again, in my mind, it just makes sense like that. For a lot of times, the male was here and the feminine was here in terms of power. Now it's the other way around. So it's up to us to just keep moving the balances until we get the harmony that we need.
That last piece was super important.
Yeah.
You know, there are multiple themes. There are multiple themes here that I feel like we can address in a moment. One, I'm backtrack to Eileen's story when Danielle was saying, there's so many experiences like hers that we got to speak on. Eileen, I want to ask a question. When you were in that job with that guy, were you being authentic? Was the work you're doing authentic to you? Yes or no?
No.
And that's the first thing I actually heard. Like behind words itself, the first thing I heard is inauthenticity. And this is one of the wounded feminine. This is one of the shadow feminine. Not even necessarily wound, it's a shadow aspect of the feminine. And so, you know, the reason being is like, I want everybody to really think about those times you were in those jobs as a woman. I'm speaking specifically to women right now in the moment. For women that were in those jobs, I want you to actually ask yourself, was the work you doing authentic to you, or were you just doing it? And it's usually going to be a yes or a no. Like, you can explain blah, 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 up and down, up. But at the end of the day, if you ask your soul, you ask yourself at a soul level, the work I'm doing actually authentic to me, yes or no? And the reason why this is super important is if you can ask yourself that and be emotionally honest, okay? Emotionally honest with the answer, what you're going to often realize is this is your own spirit trying to redirect you.
And that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, you see what I'm saying?
It's when I realized I don't belong here. Let's go. Yeah.
And it's just that simple sometimes. But again, the question is, at that time frame, were you willing to embrace that you were doing something inauthentic to yourself?
No, absolutely not. I was.
And that's the question.
Yeah.
That's
I
exactly. No, go ahead.
It was all unconscious. Yeah, it was all unconscious. And this is why I feel that these conversations are so important, because like right now I see it very clearly, but back then, like, even if you had asked me the same exact questions, I probably would have answered that I was, of course, being authentic to myself. Like, this was the plan all along, you know, just have a job, then get married, have kids, and that's it. So I was on track. I was on the plan. I was gaining like good money for being a 20-something-year-old, you know, and that's a trap.
Then the follow-up question is like, who's playing? That, you know, when I hear that, then it's like, who's playing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
so this is what's important. This is why I like having men and women on calls, because if it's just me and Cam, for example, the receptivity of feminine energy, receptivity, the ability to receive, it ain't the same. It already, we gotta start being honest, emotionally honest, that when do we already press block? Now I'm gonna switch it over to Cam's side. All right, because Cam's not coming from a different generation than my own, where men are losing priority from what I'm hearing. They're losing priority in a sense. They're losing what used to be their power, and instead it's been replaced with confusion. Which, from when I hear that, as I think of Pluto and Sagittarius, his generation, mutable change. When things mutate, guess what? You never know what's on the other side. That's the whole purpose of transformation, like mutation. It's like something is already not working, and so through the process of mutation, we never will know what is on the other end of that pressure. That's not. If we knew what was on the other end, guess what? We would intervene and we would disrupt the entire mutation, likely trying to hold on to what was, not allowing something completely new to come. And so this is just that precipice. This is that little middle ground where, this might be a silly example, but you might get this. Like, I know for me, like with my hair, when I'm growing and I'm trying to grow my hair long, let's say I'm trying to get an afro, there's that awkward patty stage where you're like, no matter what you do to your hair, if I go from short to long, no matter what I do, it's just ugly. It's just like, yo, it's unmanageable. You can't, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like nothing you do when you're trying to grow braids, nothing you do will make that process seem better. You just gonna have to take it out and be like, this is ugly. And it is. It's annoying, it's hard to manage. You don't know what to do. You just don't know what to do. So I feel like Cam is at that precipice, or at least his generation, when it comes back to the masculine. Why? Because men had to learn, essentially, we had to literally overindulge in the hedonistic pleasures that women have always been able to experience in their own manner. In their own manner. Because I can see how that can go, what? Right? But at the end of the day, like if we talk energies, right? Energies. When you press into a woman, she expands. She becomes the form. A woman, think of it more as water. She's formless. And when I say a woman, I'm talking feminine energy. It is formless. So when Aggie says, I think it was Aggie or Irene, when Irene says like men could be grounding, for example, for a woman, right, to be able to lead in her opinion. So it's like part of that is the men gives what? Structure. He gives a form. He gives form. And I'm talking again, masculine energy. He gives form. So whatever that form he gives, guess what? She will fill up that form. Now here's the question. Okay, here's the question. Are you mindfully, and I say you, not talking to anybody in particular, are you mindfully understanding the structure of the man you are deciding to take form of? Or are you just taking form in it because you're tired of being formless? So you just pick any form, you pick any structure, and you decide to fill up. And understand, this works as me as a male. I have my own feminine energy, so understand this works for me as a male. I realized very clearly as a male that when I did not choose a structure, when I did not literally design and create my purpose, my direction, and project that out into the world, and I stayed formless, this was a lot of trouble I had a lot of trouble in my life, and I kept attracting formless people. And so when you just stay formless, guess what? You're just a spirit, you're just a soul with no human host, no body, no physical structure to embody. I'm all over the place. No idea what the hell I want to do. No idea why I want to do it. No idea where I'm going. And that, again, when I'm now dating people, guess what? I'm attracting directionless people. I'm attracting formless people. I'm attracting purely divine feminine chaos energy. Because why? I was only embodying my own divine feminine dark energy, which again is not good or bad. It is a phase and a stage that is a requirement. It's a requirement. So me, I'm saying this as a male, in order for me to actually understand what structure I wanted to take form of or within and to expand within, I had to allow my dark feminine energy to destroy what was. And in the process of chaotically dismantling, like Kali, if anybody knows the Kali goddess, dismantling my demons, my enemies, everything within me. Okay, internally, all the trauma, the trouble within me, as I was destroying that and purifying that in order to nurture it, regenerate, heal, I'm formless as a male, all in my dark feminine energy. And then that did what? And this is what Cam is probably going through, and also, you know, Pluto Sag as a whole generation. They're going through this destruction. Because remember, fire is not with itself. It can either create or destroy, and it does both. And it is a masculine energy. But that's why it's mutable as well. It does both. Because again, remember, you got to understand that Sagittarius is a part of Pisces. They do not separate. You cannot understand a Pisces if you don't understand Sagittarius. Period. And you cannot understand a Sagittarius if you don't understand Pisces. Period. Somebody saying something. I feel the energy. What you want to say? I thought somebody was ready to speak. Maybe it's somebody in the chat.
Yeah, I think it was a chat.
Okay. But hopefully those principles made sense to people in the moment. Kind of really start to kind of dive back into Pluto and Aquarius, because understand, you know, Pluto and Aquarius, we're gonna be there to about 2024, 2044, something like that. So that's the next like 18 years or so, give or take 18 years or so. Okay. We're getting ready to go back into a masculine shift. And remember, Pluto is a very powerful planet. I mean, when anything goes to Pluto, it's permanent. There's no negotiation. Okay. What changes, changes. What mutates, mutates. So now we're stepping back into what? Masculine. And we're leaving what? Feminine. So if I use the example of Eileen's example when she was in the workplace, we just left Pluto and Capricorn. Capricorn career, Capricorn feminine energy. And the number one thing about Capricorn is it must live in integrity and it must be authentic. It must live in integrity and it must be authentic. So at any point, for all of us, for the last 15 years, Pluto is there. Any form of inauthenticity will automatically bring us stress. And that's what happened for the last 15 years. If anybody chose any career that was not authentic to them, stressed out. And any person, any career that made inauthentic to when it was time to push forward, because Capricorn is a cardinal sign. So it's like, look, this career worked. Now it's time to push forward for a new career. But let's say I don't want to allow that change. I don't want to push cardinal into that new career, that new image, that new reputation that I don't want, or it's the same career, but I'm being asked by my spirit to climb the social ladder in a way more authentic rather than stepping over people, manipulating people. Capricorn, manipulation, feminine energy is negative shadow of the feminine. This is what we're just pushing up right now. If I manipulate into my position, we'll be ready to face the consequences. And realize that if you were being inauthentic, this is back on you. Okay, you're destroying yourself. This is the reality. This is and understand this again is not a good or bad practice. This is your own spirit destroying itself, aka our human selves, more so. Mm-hmm. Like our, you know, more what we're deciding to do from an egoic standpoint, and more of a human consciousness. But now we're stepping into Pluto and Aquarius, which is very different. Anyone of y'all want to maybe contribute on Pluto and Aquarius? And everybody hit the thumbs up, baby. While you in here, all right? Go ahead and give this video some love. Hit the thumbs up. You know, if you're enjoying the chat, tell us what you want to hear more of. We're here for it.
I mean, I don't know about the Pluto in Aquarius, but I did ask before initiating the call, what are we going to learn today? And I had a 10 of Swords. So it's literally just making the cut, you know, realizing that there's no coming back to anything of these old forms, of this, all the structures, of these old patterns, of these old beliefs. So I just think that it is very powerful. I really hope that, because I feel this as a seed that some people here are just going to be enlightened and then enlighten their own communities. So is my full hope. And I do think that it has a lot to do with the Pluto and Aquarius part. It's part of the community. Aquarius, the 11, the networking, the internet, I mean, the rebellion, all of these things just going back to the people.
I see social transformation beautifully put through
Nice.
technology. Yeah, that's a beautiful. I love the way you worded that, Aggie. Beautifully put. Danielle feeling literally how her heart feels right now. Um, Eileen, I'm gonna expand on Pluto and Aquarius. All right. Meanwhile, pull a card for Pluto and Aquarius specifically as of where we're going in 2023, March 2023. I think.
Wait,
What's up?
you have a very important comment.
When it's dance time? I think it's dance time. I think
Yeah,
it's dance time right now.
thank
Oh,
you. Thank you,
Cam,
Secret.
welcome. All right. We're gonna have to get you on that. We're gonna get you on the box real quick. Hold on. All right, all right, what's the vibe? What's the vibe? We got acoustic cinematic, dance pop, daydreaming, feeding the ducks, whatever the hell that is. I have no idea. We have into space, lofty music, night driving, or rock. What you feeling? I mean, it's Aquarius. I'm making an executive decision. It's rock.
Okay.
It's rock. It's rock. It's Aquarius.
I was gonna go with the dogs just because it was like, what?
I still can't. I love how I can't hear nothing, but I'm just gonna rock with it anyway.
I mean, it's hard with a rock.
That's it. I love how somebody says, "Is it dance time?"
Yeah, that was awesome.
All right. Let me see. I think my audio just went crazy on that one. It apparently didn't want to work. Can I hear you? Can you hear me again?
Yeah.
Eileen, you're echoing in and out a lot. Can't you hear her echoing too?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, you're like brrr. You sound like you hopped out of the timeline.
Well, maybe.
Try unplugging it and plugging it back. Cause I can't speak something. Acoustic levitation is coming back.
You hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I got nothing from your side.
Okay, yeah, can you hear me better? No.
Mercury Retrograde. Get out. Just take out the headphone altogether.
Yeah, I just did that.
I'm gonna take a moment to just boot you. Come back in. All right, she got booted. Tooted and booted. Just kidding. All right, I'm about to bring it back.
All right, is it better? Yeah, no, more or less. Nada.
Nah, you might have to exit out the whole. You might have to press X. Your junk is stuttering. It's like. All right. So as I get into Pluto and Aquarius, thanks for that little dance break. As soon as I hit that music, junk got wild. Social revolution. Okay, beautiful description of it so far. Social revolution. Cam, you got any insight? What you might be thinking? Because again, I know you know astrology, man. I know you know astrology. Give it to us. Like, you got any insight? What you personally thinking? Even if it's, whether it's linked to gender warfare or not, do you have any thought process of how become the revolution of power? When I think of signs, I'm always thinking about power. But Pluto and Aquarius, what's your thought on the social revolution? Where are we going as a culture, society? What's your thought on the social transformation through technology, like you see here? These are beautiful descriptions.
I believe people, just people in general, are gonna have more power compared to before. Leading up to Pluto and Capricorn is mostly like a top-down structure as far as society goes. Whereas now, I believe people in general is gonna have a lot more power and freedom to do what they want. Also, technology is going to play a huge role in that as well. Just with the ability to connect to other people, start your own business using technology, and just all of those things. There's also things like that may end up being a trap, like as far as moving forward in like reality, such as things like the metaverse and Oculus and all that stuff, where people are just getting caught up in like these fake digital images and worlds where they have all this power online or on this video game or on this social media platform, but in the real world, they have nothing. So I wouldn't be surprised if the elites are still able to maintain power by tricking people into thinking that they have power that's not actually real, not tangible.
Literally virtual. Wow. Yeah, you know what? I already know you're right on point. I mean,
Hmm.
Eileen, I think
I
you're
mean,
back. I think you're back.
because
Yay.
Okay, cool.
I was gonna say, just like when I look at my generation and then my little brother's generation, the Pluto Capricorn generation, like they're just so addicted to technology.
Mm,
Like it just controls pretty much their entire life. Like they can't go more than 5 minutes without staring at their phone, or any free time they have is spent just on video games or just digitally in general. So like I said, that's gonna be like the I guess the wild card. Like if if the future generations get stuck with this technology stuff, then nothing's really gonna change. They're gonna think something changed. They're gonna be tricked into thinking that something changed, but it's all just gonna be an illusion, you know?
right, right. Literally like some Tron type stuff. There's another. What's one of these? There's one of these movies I watched. Where the whole thing is like, you plug in, right? The whole there every day, like the whole world, like 99% population was just dirt poor.
Yeah.
1% power, right? And then you had to plug into this digital reality, and you were able to. I forget what movie this was. It was so good though. And you from that digital reality, you get to try to make your way. But once you unplug, people would be completely lost. They'd be completely drained. They would feel like, like what is life?
I mean, we see
It's like they
now.
lost the essence of life.
Yeah, we see this now. Like I said, we see this now. Like everyone's so caught up in social media and all this stuff. Everyone has all these fake personas, but they can't do anything in the real world. Like
Hmm.
people don't realize
Ooh, right,
people
right,
don't
right.
realize how big of an effect technology has on your brain and how it affects like the chemical makeup of your mind. Like
Mm,
that's like, it completely drains you. It drains your energy. It drains your willpower, and it just leaves you pretty much lifeless.
hmm. Man, the
And
sun's moving. I'm here fighting shadows right now. You see me over here hooking, bob and weave on this mother. All right. No. That's really, 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 it's profound. Eileen, you got anything to contribute on that, or did you pull a card that happened to somehow link in?
No, I was gonna pull a card, but
Ready Player One. That's the movie. Thank you, Banshee. Did anybody see that? Did anybody see one?
I haven't seen it, but I heard about it.
Yo, everything you just
yeah.
said is exactly this movie, Ready Player One, and I love that. It was a great movie. It really was a great movie. But it's exactly what Cam just said. Literally, if you just heard what he said, that's the movie. But I mean, did anything pull up for you?
No. Keep talking and I'll pull
Okay, cool,
something.
cool, 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 cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. No. I was actually paying attention to Cam because I do see it happening. Like, and not only the younger generations. Like, I feel that I'm being trained to that too. Like, I just find myself like endlessly, mindlessly scrolling into media just because, you
Mm,
know.
right,
Yeah,
right, right, right.
I,
I mean, it's one of the biggest forms of escapism that we have today.
yeah. I mean, I
Easily.
can personally attest to that because in my younger years, like I obviously, apparently, you're more familiar with me than anybody else on this platform. I'm one of those people that takes everything to the extreme. So the same way that I take my actual life and my success to the extreme, I used to do the same thing with video games, which ironically is what made me realize how much power I really have. I used to play literally all day long to the point where I
Mm,
was like one of the top ranked players in the world. Like I was just addicted to it. And on that game, I was a beast. But in the real world, it was just like, I just wasn't the same. I wasn't as good at the things that I wanted to do in the real world as I was on the game.
wow.
Same with social media. Like I used to be all addicted to social media, getting all these followers and all that stuff. Now I completely cut all that stuff out of my life and it completely changed me. When I look around, like I said, I see everyone addicted to these things, to these vices, like video games, social media, pornography, all that stuff. So
Yep. Ready Player One was great, but how about Pacific Rim? I did see Pacific Rim. I did like that as well. Um, our minds are bored, and we need to constantly understand how to control our minds. Mm. Or, or rather than controlling the mind, just the best part that Asia taught me is just watching my thoughts, yo. Like, cause I mean, again, I have a Venus and Gemini, for example, right? And it's like, I mean, I got a whole bunch more Gemini in as well. I have a whole bunch of Aquarius in me as well, and it's like thoughts, concepts, ideas. Like sometimes the things that I think about, like, I mean, when I come across restrictions and limitations, this is more Aquarius related. So this I think really matters. When I come across restrictions and limitations, the amount of thought that go through my mind of how can I get over this restriction? How many different ways can I manage this? Eventually, it does begin to cycle, but even within that cycle, I find new ways to develop and branch out, concepts, ideologies, ideas that just keep going and going and going. And at a point, I realized how much it dissociated me from the world, literally reality. So, like for me, it wasn't like me playing a video game; it was me just circling my own thoughts in a way where I couldn't even recognize anymore which ones were just consistent, right? And I had to. So the reason I say that is, I feel like when it was more toxic for me was when I was in the process of trying to control them. And when I went to Asia for like 2 years or so, what it really taught me was how to just watch them, and realize that a lot of the thoughts that I have are not mine. And this is where human design helps a lot. Like, for example, I have an open head center, an open ajna, and it's like other people's thoughts really just walk into my mind, but they're not mine. And nor do they need importance, nor do they require my attention. Sometimes it's just like recognizing. The best part about this is being able to recognize this is not mine. And then another one comes, this is not my projection either. Like literally, like I remember on one of these lives, one of these days, I was like, nope, you could take that projection back. And it was like, no one said anything. No one said anything, but I heard a thought. It came in, and I was like, good, you can just go out through the other ear. And so I'm not going to sit there and say that it's simple. All right. It's not, it's actually really not easy, quite frankly. But, with practice, we can actually start to view these thoughts. When we can just view our thoughts and just let them chill out and let them do what they want to do and not control them, they actually just leave. They literally just keep, because they realize, look, I'm not getting any attention here. And the mind wants attention. But we do get to control how much attention we give to those thoughts. And so it's not controlling the thought itself, it's controlling the amount of attention we decide to give to it. And also recognizing, do I have space for anybody else's thoughts right now? Do I have space for other people to be remote viewing? I know very clearly when people are remote viewing. I know very clearly. And I also know that that has nothing to do with me. That's them hexing themselves. It's them making themselves miserable. So it doesn't require my energy. And I used to give energy to this. I used to be like, you want to fight? You want to go? And it's like, that's really not helpful. It's really draining. That's when I started letting my thoughts control me. So I just kind of wanted to make that little point. Because I have a lot of Aquarius, I have a lot of Gemini energy, and there's always a voice talking. Quite frankly, it's just that simple. There's always a voice talking, but I started realizing a lot of them are not mine. And then when I realized that and I started repelling those thoughts, I started realizing a lot of them are mine. But then again, I can let them just go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You definitely relate to that with all the air in my chart, and the fact that all my air signs are in water houses. So it's just like the thoughts of others are always getting mixed up within my own thoughts. It's hard for me to sort out which ones are mine, which ones aren't.
Right. There's somebody asking a question of how'd you cut the games out? How did you cut the phone out?
It was really just one. I mean, I knew I had bigger goals that I wanted to accomplish in the world, and I was like, do I want to be a beast on the video game, or do I want to be a beast in the real world? So there was that. I mean, obviously, it's easier said than done, but it's mostly just like I said, it's just deciding what you want out of life, and just cutting out the things that are holding you back from that.
Right.
Not only that, but also realizing how these game developers and app developers are manipulating you, because they understand human psychology better than most people do. They
better than we do as the gamer.
They understand how video games and social media and all that stuff, and how it affects different chemicals in your brain and gets you hooked on it and all that stuff. So once I realized what was being done, it was just like
it got easier. Because nobody consciously wants to be manipulated. Like when you're being manipulated, I don't know anybody that really loves being manipulated when they know it.
Yeah, like the reason video games are so addictive, especially for men, is because men naturally want to go out and achieve things and have some type of success. Like that's just our primal instinct. So that's how video game plays on your mind. Like you
get accolades, you get new levels unlocked, and
you're not doing anything in the real world. Not only that, but I also noticed I started feeling, the more I played, the more depressed I felt after I got off, because it was just like I accomplished all that on the game, like I said, and I look at my life and it's just, you know, just regular. So it's
Wow.
like I said, it's mostly just I mean, it's easier said than done, but you just do it. Like you just get rid of it. Like
So
if you have to sell it, give it to somebody else, and start filling your time with other things.
so you're I mean, I know people don't know this about you, and I won't even go into too much detail, but I'm gonna kind of keep it simple. Um, you know, Cam is one of the people that I've actually seen where it's like he said, do I want to be a beast in real life? I know, do I want to be a beast in the game or a beast in real life? And that right there was the critical statement, because he's also a prime example of someone that was a beast in the games did become a beast in real life. And again, you know, there's no whatever his background that he want to tell you, he'll tell you himself. But eventually, he did actually manifest that same success that the game. So this is the beauty about, you know, recognizing why nothing is good and when nothing's bad. It was never bad that he was in his addiction phase of the games, because at the end of the day, it gave him a craving to be that successful in real life, and he actually accomplished exactly that, above and beyond what he can even begin to imagine. So again, we can. It's that's why when we look at our thoughts, when we look at our dreams, we look at the astral realm. It's really beautiful when we cannot judge it as good or bad, because the moment we do that, we already got lost.
Mhm.
Yeah, like you know, I see a lot of content creators calling guys losers for being stuck on games and all that stuff, but in reality, like you said, there's no such thing as good or bad. Like if you're addicted to video games, you can be addicted to success. You know, like
Yeah,
what to
yeah.
say.
YouTube is
Yeah,
an alternative universe. It's true. You know, you could be addicted. You know, the easiest way to describe addiction, because Pluto and Aquarius will remember, Pluto shows us our power struggles. It also shows us our addictions. So when you put this in Aquarius, so understand that the world will begin to really realize what are their addictions to technology, and what is they're going to start brainstorming. That's what Aquarius does. They brainstorm. Okay, they find solutions that are going against two things. One, their sense of security. Okay, think root chakra, as well as two, everything solar plexus related, which will include things like willpower, ambition, as well as emotions. Okay, and the emotional waves of humanity. I literally said what I said, like me being able to feel somebody in Japan who's crying. Okay, so the emotional waves of humanity. When you put Pluto in there in Aquarius, it's going to start showing us these addictions to helping somebody, where we're ignoring, in a sense, our own inner world and how we can come back and actually act on our dreams. Because this is the thing that people don't know about Aquarius. Aquarius is hopes and dreams, right? And the 11th house is hopes and dreams. But with Aquarius, the thing is, it can get into such a, and I've seen this for myself as well. I've found myself getting into such a thought process about how will I structure, move, and groove and hopes in my dreams, that eventually it just remained a fantasy. At a point in my life, it remained a fantasy because I just kept thinking. And Aquarius is a fixed energy, so understand Pluto will reveal the power struggles within ourselves around where do we need to transform what has been fixed in nature. Where do we need to transform, and what has now needs a cardinal push. So that cardinal push, we just left Capricorn. In the career, we already see the cardinal push. We've already experienced the cardinal push. Fixed energy of Pluto and Aquarius will say, here's this next stage that, you know, even from a higher perspective, aka think of Aquarius as like astral projecting outside of itself, outside of itself, outside of itself, outside of itself. Like one of those Russian Maker dolls, you know, where there's a doll outside of a doll outside of a doll. That's Aquarius. And it has each of those dolls outside of each other that grow bigger and larger. It has a different vantage point to see what its revolution of power will look like as it steps outside of its personal circumstances, worries, desires, concerns, anxieties, depressions, modalities of depression, all that pressure. Remember, it is a part of Saturn. It deals with a tremendous amount of limitation. One is hopes and dreams. Pluto will actually start to transform and mutate that pressure for everybody over the next 18 years. I just wanted to kind of give you that little boom boom. So, do we have any questions? Do we have any thoughts? Do we have any concerns? You know, on a grand scheme about what are the narratives happening, what's coming forward, where we're at now. This is a good time to ask before we wrap this discussion today. This is a good time to ask. This is on point. This is on time session for me. I'm glad you're talking about this. Is a serious problem. It is a serious problem. The magic is you're gonna win anyways. I mean, this is the best. This is the best part. Like you said, I came on here and understood very clearly. Like there is a global elite agenda. Okay, Cam said it perfectly. That one of the biggest parts behind this is distraction. When it comes to gender and all of the fluidity, the non-binary, transgender, gay, lesbian, all of that distraction. Not much different than what he said about video games. Not much different than what he said about virtual reality. Distraction. And the thing is, this is what happens when a rat is backed into a corner. And I say this all the time. You back a rat into a corner, eventually it will crawl and cut and bite through you if it must. And this is what, when Pluto implodes, it means that those old structures of inauthenticity in the career and the workspace and how we climb the social ladder and how we manipulate, all that stuff is done. It's done. It's done. March 23rd, 2023. It's done. And so this is just those last degrees. That pressure will increase. Okay, so do understand that pressure will increase, but it's the simplicity of pressure to make diamonds. That's it. That's all it is. Pressure to make diamonds. So Aquarius is about our hopes and our dreams. So Capricorn and this whole pressure imploding in 2023 over the last 15 years, okay, is the pressure that it takes to make each of us a diamond. Each of us a diamond. So that we as an individual can contribute to the larger mission, the larger dream, the larger narrative of one. This is the revolution of power. That's literally what Aquarius is here. Because remember, Aquarius has a very profound relationship with Aries. They always sextile, right? They have a profound relationship with Aries. Aries is the individual, Aquarius is the individual within the group. Aquarius teaches Aries how to be the individual in a group rather than to be an individual by yourself. And Aries teaches Aquarius that eventually you have to push forward. You can't stay in that thought process of that fixed thought, that fixed energy of brainstorming the plan, the master plan that Aquarius loves to hold on to. They have a very inverse relationship and it looks like that. And that's how the wind and the fire work together very well. So, do either the two of you have anything you give us, or Eileen, maybe you have a message you want to give to finish this up on a tarot base? We got.
You have the Three of Swords, which is actually like right on point with what you were saying, because it is air energy. So everything that you were saying about Libra, about Aquarius, about all of these thoughts just staying in the mind, trying to hold us down, it is what it means. Like it is heartbreak, this card, but understand that it is heartbreak because of our own thoughts, because we set expectations that were never real, that were non-existent. So all of this, and I think that it goes back also to a comment that Cam made about the how we think we have the power when we really don't. So it's all an illusion, and just to be very mindful of that. And the way out of the Three of Swords is always through self-love, because as long as we understand and accept ourselves as we are at this time right now, at this moment, whenever you think about it, then it is the key to actually be in our true authentic selves. And this cannot bring us any pain because we already accept what we are, who we are. The experiences that we have, not deeming them as good or bad, but just understanding that they are experiences towards something else. So I think that for me, this is like my final message that I want everyone to just hold on to themselves. Like really try this congruency thing with being the same, what you think, what you say, what you feel. And this is going to come back to the self-love part, and it's going to be so much easier to even discern what thoughts are yours and what thoughts are not, what emotions are yours and what emotions are not.
Yeah, and that's why the way out of any Aquarius narrative is the heart.
Oh yeah, sure, Leo.
It's always the heart. Okay, you want to figure out how to get out of the technology. Listen to your heart, straight up. Your heart knows when it's being poisoned and it knows when it's happy. Listen to the heart. The way out of Aquarius is always the heart, and that's why you got the Three of Swords. into the heart. Literally, it's stabbing the heart. Like literally,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, literally is that. Like the thoughts, the ideas going through the Leo heart. So
It's crazy.
it's just
What you just said, like it connected the dot. It connected the dots with something that Eileen said during my Akashic records because it didn't make any sense. 'Cause I don't have any Leo placements, but I get it now. Just from you saying that.
man. As you really
it,
mentioned that, is there anything that you could say about Akashic records? One of your first time going through it that might shed light for the audience or why they might want to get an Akashic reading?
Um, I feel like it's definitely worth it because it gives you a lot of clarity on like why you're going through the things you're going through, and and what you're working towards as well. Like it's definitely I say it's definitely worth it. I mean, it's really just as simple as that. I'm not really going to go into all the detail and the depth. I'm just keeping it simple.
Okay,
Whatever
that's all we
you're
need.
going through, yeah, it'll help you with that.
Hey, that's it.
yeah, thank
That's
you.
all we
Yeah.
need. Simplicity is the key. So that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hitting that thumbs up. Thank you for joining us here on this topic discussion today. Pluto Aquarius is from March 23rd, 2023, and it's gonna go into the year 2044. That's eventually where we get into Pluto and Pisces, and that's finally when we're all gonna understand what it means to be one. So do understand that's another 18-20 years. Okay, it's another 18-20 years. But from now until then, start really aligning with everything Capricorn and Pluto has taught you about, aka being authentic. Being inauthentic and ain't it. Also, you want to work through um the mental thoughts, the mental patterns align with your heart. Just literally ask your question. Somebody has said earlier, you want to know, I think it's Banshee right here. You want to know your thoughts, what you think, or who's thinking, blah, blah, blah. Ask. You have questions, ask. The hard part is silencing the chatter. So, how you silence the chatter? Follow your heart. Straight up. It's the same thing. Follow your heart. You want to go to the park? Go to the park. Stop thinking about if your partner is going to be mad at you for going to the park. Yo, look, I'm going to the park. I need to go to the park. I want to go to the park. Go to the park. Okay. You want to take a trip, but you thinking, oh, I got the money, I got this and that. Follow your heart. Follow your heart, and watch everything else just start falling in place for you. It's gonna fall in your lap. So, thank you. I'll see you all soon. Cam, I appreciate you and your time,
Problem.
and you as well. Bang. Tap in, y'all. See you soon.